Thank you. That takes us to a further item that the Mayor has foreshadowed in respect of decriminalising sex work. And Councillor Thompson, you'll be looking to move a motion seeking to have that admitted.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Again, similar to the previous one, to bring this forward, Chair, because it's quite urgent. In fact, it's very urgent, this one.
So I'll just we'll just take that down from the screen. I think everybody's had the opportunity to read that, and I'm in search of a second to the urgency motion. Councillor Stavrou. Do you want to speak very briefly to establish urgency?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, and I can go on to this a bit further, but this the state government's put out for consultation a paper with regards to decriminalising sex work. It's not so much the decriminalising of it, it's actually the impact on our planning. And this really needs to be considered straight away before the state government considers this and puts this into legislation.
Okay, thank you. So I'll put the motion in respect of establishing urgency. Those in favour? Those against? That motion is carried. So your motion, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thank you again, Chair. If the officers can just bring up the motion on the screen, and then I'll talk to that. So this motion is in a couple.
Further.
Yep. So it's on the screen, Chair. Thank you for that. So this motion seeks to note the intent of the Victorian government with decriminalising sex work. That's not the process that we're concerned with now. It's actually what is opposing with regards to the amenity impacts and the planning impacts associated with it. So item 2 goes on to that. Items 3 and 4 look at the voice of the community. Now, the community may not very well be aware.
I'll just see if I can get a seconder to that. Councillor Watson. Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson, if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And again, is there any, there is opposition, I'm assuming?
Yes, there is.
Thank you again, Chair. Okay, so councillors, this motion seeks to note that the state government has decided to decriminalise sex work in Victoria, removing offences and criminal penalties for consensual sex work, decriminalising street-based sex work, and repealing public health offences. The state seeks to repeal the Sex Work Act 1994 and regulate the industry through existing regulatory agencies such as local councils. I do make it quite clear for all councillors, and obviously those in support and those against, this motion does not bring into question the moral imperative that the state government's intention is to protect, to remove discrimination, or enhance the rights and entitlements of sex workers as a legitimate way to earn income. That's not in question here, councillors. But I am disappointed by several things that will directly impact our community. Firstly, the lack of consultation with the community and with council. The state has given only 2 days for this council to comment on the proposed legislation before the submission closes. This, to me, demonstrates a clear intention that they don't want to hear from councils and communities. Secondly, and most importantly, this change in legislation will introduce changes that will affect our residents and council. This is where it's in the public interest to know about this. And they are decriminalising street-based sex work in most locations, dismantling the separation requirements between sex work business and particular land uses, including residential dwellings. The discussion paper under planning controls identifies that a current use that is considered discriminatory towards sex workers is where street-based sex work can take place near a place of worship or a school or a childcare centre, or where children are present. It seeks to remove those separation distances through discrimination, and it states there will be no separation distance requirements between sex work businesses and particular land uses, including dwellings. The changes go on to mention that brothels can apply for liquor licences, sex work businesses can operate in commercial and residential areas, home-based businesses can be set up in local streets and they can advertise their services and hours of operation like any other home-based business. And no statement's been provided by Victoria Police that supports this initiative. Council will administer sex work businesses much like any other business under the Planning Environment Act. So this motion seeks to oppose the changes that will directly impact on the health and safety of our residents. The planning scheme identifies permitted uses on the appropriateness of that use in the context for which it's proposed. For obvious reasons, not all business activity is permitted in residential zones. The community should have a say in what they believe such businesses should be located in our municipality. So this motion seeks to call upon the state government to meaningfully consult with the community and local governments across Victoria before they introduce their changes, to provide evidence on the health impact, the social impact, the economic impact, and also criminology assessment with regards to the proposed changes. The motion seeks to note that community consultation is integral consideration, and our community should have their say on how these changes will affect them in their residential neighbourhoods. Councillors, I believe we're duty-bound to highlight the changes proposed to our community, encourage them to provide the feedback to the state government. I will say no Victorian deserves to be a victim of human trafficking or a victim of abuse or to be exploited. Sex workers must be protected. They must have a safe work environment. They must be free from abuse and free from harassment. The health and safety of our residents are equally as important and must be maintained. And my concern is that the proposed changes that are in their paper, they simply won't be. So I would encourage you to support this motion. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you. Councillor Stavrou, you were the seconder. Do you want to speak at this juncture?
Can I reserve my right, Mr.
Sure.
Thank you.
Who would like to speak? Councillor Addis and then Councillor Sinfield.
Thanks very much, Chair. I will be supporting this, and that's not necessarily to be commenting on the contents of the bill. The reason why I'm supporting it is that, again, it feels like the community and council are being denied the opportunity to meaningfully consider this and have time to think about it and then make presentations. So it's more the process that I'm objecting to and the lack of consultation rather than necessarily what it contains, because I don't think really there's been the opportunity to carefully consider the implications of these changes. So again, I thank the Mayor for bringing this forward on behalf of the community we represent. Thanks, Chair.
It seems I'm not paying enough attention because apparently I actually recognise Councillor Watson as the seconder. So I'll cross back to Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll speak later. Thank you for recognising the error.
Then I'll go back to Councillor Sinfield.
Thanks, Chair. I'll keep my comments really brief, other than to echo what has already been said very eloquently by the Mayor. My concerns are broad and far-reaching for our community and the amenity impacts that this is likely to cause. And I make those observations from a position of community safety, where my primary occupation for the last 20 odd years has been in enforcing the law. So it gives me great concern, and I also echo Councillor Addis's comments in relation to the process that has been adopted here by the state government in trying to push this through without consultation, not only without consultation, but entirely without awareness by the community as to what's being pushed through here. So consultation's one thing, a level of awareness and advertising their intention is another, and we haven't seen either here with any sufficient time for anyone to really make comment or socialise the concept amongst the Boroondara community and more broadly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stavro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I might speak now, given that I'm not the seconder, so thank you. Look, let me also thank the Mayor for his leadership in the motion that is put in front of us. I think I completely agree with my previous colleagues in the issues that they raised. And one of the issues that I'm concerned is the amount of conflating that's going on with issues. So in the previous motion, we saw the economy is brought in, and then planning is the sort of subtext. Now we have another worthy issue of decriminalising sex work to improve, as the Mayor eloquently said, the potential lives of people that are involved in that industry, and then potential subcurrent is the planning again. And I am concerned, and I must admit I'm a little bit perplexed that I even need to say the following words, because I think, you know, to me they're self-evident, and anybody that I've spoken to really, they see the two issues as separate. They see that there's, you know, one does not need to have any of the moral issues that people sometimes might think about these things. It's really about, is this appropriate in terms of planning in our community? And most people say no, even though they would be well disposed to making the lives better of those involved in sex work. But this issue needs to be made abundantly clear, and because to our community, and we do have the obligation, because amenity could suffer. Imagine if a business like that opened up in your street, next to your business, and that could have deleterious effects. We love this community, the Boroondara, and that's why we live here. We raise our children here, we work here, we send our children to school here. A lot of people choose to retire in this area, and a lot of us that run for council, I believe, have one of these sort of, you know, innate sort of sense to help this community and protect the amenity, protect its open spaces, and protect our neighbourhoods. It's a wonderful area, and I'm sure, like others who are drawn to become councillors, it's because we feel we ought to give back in some way to actually ensure that it continues to be just as good for future generations. I have raised this issue in previous meetings in very similar circumstances. I think it's a basic human right, particularly in a democracy, for community to be part of the decision-making process that affects our lives, not in the abstract, but in practical terms, in our local environment. Planning and changes to planning from Central Bureau, that can be one of the most intrusive ways that can change our community. It's not abstract, it's real. And again, I'm appalled at the continuing lack of consultation. Make no mistake, I think that this is a slap, not only to the Boroondara community, but as the Mayor said, and it's evident that other mayors are seeing this, for communities across all Victoria. So on that basis, I fully support the motion, and I applaud the Mayor for the leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Franco.
Thank you. I won't be supporting this motion. It's alarmist. It's wrong. It's politically motivated. It's a misuse of ratepayer monies. It's about undermining the state government effectively as the last one, and setting up a campaign in the lead up to the state election to undermine the state government. I think that's what it's about. What it's not about is dealing with the public policy issues at hand. If we were genuine about the public policy issues, we'd have a report before us, we'd have a considered approach to issues. We wouldn't be engaging in this motion. This motion is about reaching out to the community, using ratepayer monies to create a campaign of fear and alarm in the community about Boroondara being turned into some kind of red light zone or brothel area. This is, if we're genuine about reaching out to the state government, it's not about writing to all residents and encouraging fear and panic in our residential community. The motion, I don't have it in front of me now, it was flashed up before, but it did, if I read it correctly, and you can put it up again, there was a motion clearly objecting to the decriminalisation of the sex industry. So we say that it's not about the decriminalisation. Look, I'd welcome seeing the motion again and actually being able to.
Councillor Franco, it was emailed to you some days ago. So maybe if you just have a look at your email, it's there. You've got it. We all received it. Okay,
well, I must have missed that email, but members of our community who may want to see the motion as well will eventually get to see it when they receive the letter. Again, that's another issue in relation to the way this is being handled. It's not about us making a submission to the state government. It's about causing fear, panic, alarm in the community. Again, and I want to make this point. We've heard over and over that the state government has not consulted, but the state government has been consulting on this. Any one of us could have, and council could have made a submission, and any member of our community could have made a submission. To suggest that there's been no consultation, where there's been no consultation, it's been in relation to this motion and the way this is being introduced. And I just want to also touch on the issue of decriminalisation. I'm just reading straight here off the state government website and the Consult and Engage Victorian. It says decriminalisation doesn't mean sex will be deregulated. It will be subject to standard business laws. There will still be limits on where street-based sex work can take place, such as near places of worship, near schools, care services, or children's service centres where children are present. So to suggest otherwise is wrong. And if we're suggesting that businesses are going to be popping up with red lights or whatever flashing through the community, I think that's wrong. So if we're genuine, we can make a submission. If there are substantive policy issues, let's present the policy issues to the councillors. There's always opportunity to submission to the state government in relation to thoughtful, considered planning considerations that we can submit. But it's not about that. If that were being presented, it'd be a different story. And that's what gives me concern. And we're basically misusing our ratepayer funds to create these political campaigns against the state government. And we have to ask ourselves, how are we being perceived? What are we doing? What's it for? Writing to all the residents and creating this alarm and fear, rather than actually engaging with the issues of substance and having them presented in a thoughtful, systematic way. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Are there any other councillors wishing to speak? No, so I'll return to, Councillor Watson.
Missed me twice, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I want to address some of the concerns that were raised by Councillor Franco. 2 days is not consultation. But if we went to our community with a heritage gap study and said, you got 2 days to make a submission, I'm pretty sure of the response that we would get. The state government has not consulted in a genuine way, and we are calling them out for this failure and seeking to put the community voice back into this process. Now, the clause that was read out about street work is just when a sex worker plies their trade walking the street. One of the things that we are gravely concerned about is the ability for a brothel to set up in a residential area. And let me share with you my lived life experience. I had an illegal brothel set up 4 doors down from where I lived when I lived in North Carlton. It was not fun. I did not feel safe. I was a mother with 4 young children, and I had to walk past the men awaiting their appointment time. And let me tell you, their brothels go morning, noon, and night, 24/7. So if we want to introduce that to our suburbs, then let our residents have a say. let them understand that, and I'll be sharing my experience where the clients would urinate in the gutter before they go into the premises, or they would pee in our little garden beds. That's what it was like. And I think our residents need to have a voice and a say on this. Nowhere did we say that we were not concerned, that we were opposed to decriminalisation, and I strongly object to the characterisation of this council and this motion as playing politics. The last council term, that was never said, and we have always had our community's interests at heart. So I absolutely refute that notion, and I hope to never hear it again. And with great enthusiasm, I support the leadership of our mayor on this issue. Our community needs to say this will have effect, and this is our way of letting them know what the state government is doing with great speed and with secrecy. So I will leave my comments there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers? No, then I'll return to Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks everyone for your support. Look, this is anything but political. And as Councillor Watson's indicated, this has got nothing to do with undermining the state government. It has everything to do, and I recognise one of our residents earlier, Mr. Alan Jane, presented this is about the community. Everything should focus around the community. And this is simply what this is about. This motion is to bring forward a discussion with the community about what they believe is appropriate within their residential streets. Councillor Franco, you are incorrect that this motion does not support the changes to the Sex Work Act. You know, I was clear to state that, you know, the protection of the rights of sex workers is important. The moral imperative that the state government is bringing this is not in question. You know, they should be free from discrimination. They should be protected and safe in their workplace. However, where is that workplace appropriate? Is it appropriate next door? Is it appropriate across the road? Is it appropriate next to the childcare centre? Now, Councillor Franco, what you've read out is actually quite different to the issues paper. So the issues paper actually says current issues. They don't want sex workers to work within 200 metres of hospitals, school, childcare centres. That's actually what's currently happening. And that's what the state is saying is discriminatory. What they're seeking to do is to remove all of those limitations so that street workers can actually work anywhere within the municipality, whether it's in commercial zones, residential zones, neighbourhood zones, you name it, they can set up next door as a home-based business. Now, it's different to say a sex work shop, a sex shop, sex toy shop, or something like that. There are limitations on where they can be positioned. But you know, our community needs to hear about this, and simply for council to provide 2 days notice to provide information back to submission back to the state, that's just not adequate. Our community needs to listen to us, take the leadership on this. They need to also have a say. If they go to the Engage website for the state government, they can read the issues paper, they can read the things, the questions there, and they can actually make a submission. But this is not heavily populated or popularised or anything like that, Councillor Franco, because you know, you would have known about this more had you actually engaged in it yourself. And yes, I did circulate that motion well in advance so that every councillor could ask questions, could interrogate it, they could have a look at the links to the websites and those sorts of things. I'll leave it there, Chair. I simply, as I said previously, Chair, I think this is in the interests of our community. They simply just need to be aware of these changes that the state's proposing, and they should also have their 2 bobs worth and say whether it's appropriate or not. That's up to our community saying that. But if we don't bring it to them, they won't know, and then they'll question later on what our advocacy was. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. I'll put that motion. Those in favour? if you could just keep your hands up. Myself, Councillor Watson, Councillor Sinfield, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Hollingsworth, Councillor Gillies, Councillor Stavrou, Councillor Addis, Councillor Bigger and Councillor Galt. Those against? Councillor Franco. That motion is carried.
Declare a division again, Chair. Thank you.
For a division, okay, so that vote is vacated and we'll take the vote again. If those in favour, myself, Councillor Watson, Councillor Sinfield, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Hollingsworth, Councillor Gillies, Councillor Stavrou, Councillor Addis, Councillor Bigger and Councillor Galt, and those against? Councillor Franco. That motion is carried.